So everyone knows what's in this big, beautiful bill before it goes to the Senate. Now, I know a lot of you are not going to want to watch a long video going through the key highlights of how horrible this bill is, and you just kind of want the top line and move on with your day, okay? So, for those of you who don't care to know what's really going on with the policy, I will just give you the top line. And the top line is this: we've already had a lot of major wealth transfers from regular people to the top over the last 20 years, and we're about to have our biggest one yet. This will transfer more wealth from regular and working people to the top 1% than at any other time during this new century. This is all coming during a time where 25% of Americans who were surveyed said that they now finance their groceries. Yeah, you heard that right. 25% of Americans now finance their groceries. The ruling class likes to say, you'll own nothing, you'll have nothing, and you'll like it. Just know what's in it and the amount of damage it's going to do to regular people and the amount of damage it's actually going to do to conservatives living in rural areas. I will be faceless this entire time going over it because my teeth temps fell out. So that's why I have a lisp. And that's why I'm going to do it this way. It's just going to be going over it, okay? So this is going to be a dense information video. Only those of you who actually really care about policy are going to appreciate this, okay? I heard some guy be like, oh, the no tax on tips. Get out of here. It's in this trash. That is so bad that even Joni Ernst got confronted by her own Republican constituents. And her response when her own constituents was like, people are going to die. She was like, well, we all die. Get into it. First, look at how cute this little bandana I got from Zoran Mondami's campaign. That's very cute. It includes massive cuts to Medicaid. It includes cuts to Medicaid estimated at $800 billion, potentially causing 8.6 to 15 million Americans to lose their health coverage. New work requirements, tighten eligibility, and restrictions on state funding mechanisms are going to exacerbate access issues, particularly for low income individuals. Not only that, but it is going to cause a massive closure of rural hospitals. So all those conservatives who live in rural areas, they're going to lose their hospital access, bro. Should understand, never get it twisted, that all of this is in service of tax cuts for the rich. I said this a year ago. I said it a year and a half ago during the debates during the Republican primary. The entire Republicans' reason for being is tax cuts for the rich and deregulation of businesses so that they can poison you without ever having to be held accountable so they can make more money. That's the whole gambit. That is the only thing they're going to do. And they're going to do it at your expense. I didn't have some special insight a year and a half ago. I just know that this is the Republicans' entire MO. Everything is tax cuts for the rich and deregulation at the expense of working class people and poor people, the environment, people's freedoms, people's safety. And of course, they don't give a fuck about the deficit because this is going to blow the fuck out of the deficit in ways we have never seen. I made a video about this like a year and a half ago too, where I pointed out that the Republicans are always the ones to blow up the deficit. They're the ones who complain about the deficit the most and the debt. You don't really see Democrats complaining about it that much. But Democrats are the ones who always get it down. Republicans are always the ones that blow it the fuck out. And this is like we've never seen a deficit blowout like this. Next, reduction to SNAP benefits. The legislation imposes strict work requirements and shifts, which they say it like a lot of people on SNAP already aren't working. Do you know that most people on SNAP already do work? A lot of the people that aren't, it's because they're disabled or because they're kids or because they're elderly. You really want to send some 78-year-old that's on SNAP to work at like Dollar Tree, like that is so evil. Cuts to SNAP will affect approximately 11 million people, including 5.4 million due to paperwork burdens and another 2 million in areas with insufficient jobs. This will lead to even more food insecurity for the elderly and children. Significant increases to the federal deficit. The Congressional Budget Office and others' analysis show that the bill will add up to $5.2 trillion to the federal debt over 10 years, including interest due to tax cuts favoring high earners, outpacing spending cuts. So, even amidst all the spending cuts they're going to do, going after regular people and poor people and elderly people, it's still not going to be nearly enough to cover the amount of debt that they are adding to this country. It's actually insane. Higher interest rates and more economic instability. Provisions that weaken democratic oversight. This bill includes a measure that hinders judicial oversight by prohibiting funds for enforcing court orders by the executive branch officials. So that provision was snuck in there by fascists who this has nothing to do with the budget. And one of the constituents actually called one of the Congress people out for this and was like, what the hell is this doing in this bill? This is just an attack on the rule of law. This has nothing to do with the economy. And the guy didn't know how to answer it. He was like, what I didn't know what was in there. Imposes a 10-year moratorium on state laws regulating artificial intelligence, which is insane because what it's going to hurt is AI related issues like privacy and algorithm bias, which is so insane too. Like, they don't care. They want this to be Terminator and they don't care what happens to you as long as they can make a couple extra bucks. I actually think that's what all those movies, like doomsday movies, get wrong is that in the movies, there's always like a good guy and like good people overall that want to save humanity. When in real life, none of these people care about humanity at all. They will literally sell all of humanity out if it means like a few extra dollars for the corporation. It cuts housing assistance. It undermines labor protections by taking away certain regulations to protect overtime pay and workplace safety. Cuts to housing assistance, including Section 8 vouchers, restrictions on reproductive health care, weakened environmental protections, and the elimination of any student loan forgiveness. Because remember, guys, you don't deserve to have your student loans forgiven. Loan forgiveness is only for rich people and corporations, okay? Like all those PPP loans that like Marjorie Taylor Greene took advantage of. Yeah, those are only for rich people, not you. Eliminate certain small business grants, impact veteran services by imposing extremely strict eligibility criteria for veterans benefits. That is such a typical Republican thing to do too, because they love to exploit veterans and the troops by being like, oh, the troops, the troops. But then when it actually comes to ever doing anything to take care of them, they always cut it. They don't give a fuck. Deregulation of food safety standards. The bill includes provisions that reduce oversight of food safety on the FDA and USDA. Oh, that's nice. It cuts their inspection budget. You know what really gets me about this is that then when the next pandemic happens, everybody's going to act shocked. Like before the pandemic in 2020, the Trump administration had cut a lot of funding to like the preparedness teams for pandemic research. They're cutting all this shit that is going to massively affect the health of the American people, including ending any kind of research and funding for a vaccine for bird flu. And then when shit gets out of control, everyone's going to be like, who could have seen this coming? And of course, reduce funding for rural infrastructure because even though they pretend to give a fuck about rural conservatives who vote for them, they actually don't because they know that no matter how much they fuck you over, you rural folk, you're going to vote for them anyway. So why would they change? And limits on public health emergency preparedness. Buried in the bill are cuts to funding for state and local public health emergency programs, including responses to pandemic and natural disaster preparedness. Nice, nice. So, all you people in North Carolina that Trump promised that he was going to help, yeah, he's not coming. They're actually trying to shut down FEMA. And to all you clowns that were like, oh, well, what about the no tax on tips? Well, first of all, this bill is such a disaster. The no tax on tips will never make up for what a disaster it is. But also, they're way over trying to sell it and play it. Because while it's pitched as a relief for service industry workers, nearly 40% of tip workers make so little that they actually don't even qualify for federal income tax to begin with, and there's nothing for them. This is going to create a lot of administrative burden and compliance issues because that means that they're going to have to more meticulously track and report their cash tips. Republicans know it's a disaster, which is why, for the most part, they're not having town halls. They're not taking questions. They know that it's insanely unpopular and they don't want to have to answer for it. I also think that this bill shows that the late stage empire, the crumbling capitalist empire that we live in, is crumbling and they know it. And that's why they're trying to loot as much as they can from the American taxpayer before the entire thing collapses in on itself and we're overtaken by feudalists like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Alex Karp, and all the other tech oligarchs. Because this is not a bill that is passed by a party that thinks that America has a future. This is not a bill that you would pass if you wanted America to have a future. This is a bill you pass when you know you're not going to win re-election, when you think there might not even be another election. This is the kind of bill that you pass that you know is going to devastate the economy for most people, but you don't really care because you know that you're not responsive to the will of the people anyway. They will pass it in the Senate because they don't care about the parliamentarian or the rules, and they know the Democrats aren't going to try to stop them.